All right, hi everyone. Welcome to week 3. We are here to bring you as much information as we can to help you get prepared for the CAASPP assessment. I'm Erica Angelo, Assessment TOSA, and here we also have Brenda Lasley, Assessment TOSA. Good to see you all here again for our week 3. Let's go over what we're talking about today. The highlight for today, it's going to be a few things, but we're going to get through this and we're going to get through this together. And if you have any questions, don't forget we do have that live session every Friday at noon. You can bring us your questions or you can email them to us. But these are the topics on our agenda that we are going to be covering today. Our mission and vision, our values, an icebreaker activity to get us thinking, and our universal tools. Just a quick overview. More information about universal tools was covered in our week 1 recording, so you might want to refresh with that if you have questions about universal tools, but we'll cover that a little bit today, along with what is CAASPP, who takes it, tips for a smooth assessment, and questions and a reminder for our live session. Our mission and vision here at Compass remains as our mission is to inspire and develop innovative, creative, self-directed learners, one scholar at a time. And our vision is to create a collaborative virtual learning community, inspiring scholars to appreciate the ways in which the arts and sciences nurture a curiosity for lifelong learning and prepare scholars to take responsibility for future successes. And our Arctic values guide us along the way. Our Arctic values of achievement, respect, teamwork, integrity, and communication. So we are here to continue to achieve, continue to engage and take charge of our learning, right? To be respectful in all interactions with either your fellow scholars, your learning coaches, the faculty, the staff, bringing that respect to the teamwork, right? We're working as a team, cooperatively with all those involved. That means, you know, who you have at home with your teachers. We're all spread out, we know, but we are still working cooperatively as a team and bringing that integrity with us each and every way. And that integrity being that behavior through following ethical principles or values and our academic honesty, whether it's with the work that you're turning in or how you're communicating. And then communication as the bottom of our Arctic value, to frequently and proactively communicate with all persons involved in your education. So icebreaker, I'm curious to know, after some review perhaps of the universal tools, I'm curious to know what is one universal tool you think you might use. Remember, those universal tools are available for all. And maybe there's one you really liked using last year that you would like to use again, or something you're looking forward to using this year. So here we have a slide that you can find down below this YouTube video for the links. This is a review of some of the universal tools. It's just a reminder. There are a few to choose from that you can practice. The practice test can also give you an opportunity not just to see some of the questions that you might see on the CAASPP assessment, but also see some of these universal tools that you might enjoy practicing with before you actually begin. Sometimes when we begin those assessments, we forget those tools are actually there. So it might be a really good practice to get in there and start using some of these so that you're more familiar with them. So the list on the right in the white box, if you click on that in the slide deck, then you'll be able to open that document with all of the videos for review. And actually, one of my favorite ones is towards the bottom of that list. If we go back to that slide one more time, strike through. Strike through is an opportunity to strike through some questions as you're reviewing. You know, maybe you're not sure what the answer is, and that's one of those test taking strategies that might actually be helpful for you. All right, so a lot of universal tools that you can go back and review. And now on to what is CAASPP. It's always in capital letters, right? It's there, it's here to show up. It's not here to yell at you though. It's just in capital letters because it's an acronym and it stands for California Assessment of Student Performance and Progress. And it consists of English Language Arts, ELA, the math, and the science test, abbreviated as, or abbreviated as CAASPP. Or no, CAST with a T. Okay, so who, not into who takes CAASPP yet, but what is CAASPP? So in addition to the assessments that are part of CAASPP, what else is it? So we know kind of what it stands for, but there's more to it than just that. It's computer-based, which means that this is an assessment on a computer instead of a testing booklet made of paper and pencil. So you're going to take this assessment on the computer. It's also computer adaptive, which means that the questions adapt as you progress through the assessments. So based on your answers, you might get something that's a little bit easier, just the same, or a little bit harder as the next question. You don't get to know whether or not you've answered it correctly or incorrectly as you're taking the assessment, but the assessment system knows, and it's in real time. So it's going to adjust your assessment accordingly by presenting questions, again, that are either easier, the same, or maybe more difficult. Now the CAST, the science one, is not computer adaptive. You'll just see a set of questions and answer as you go, but it will still have two parts to the assessment, and I'll cover that on the next slide. But before we move on, just a reminder that CAASPP, again, is administered remotely via computer. So this means you won't have to travel to a testing site. You will log in and take the assessment from your home. This means that you need to find a quiet place without distractions or noise. In general, we do like to have you find a quiet place whenever you're doing your schoolwork, but this day especially, really try to find a quiet place. Maybe have some headphones so that you can focus on your assessments. All right, so each part has, or each assessment has two parts. Do you see the two-part section down below on that slide? One says CAT and the other one says PT. You might hear a teacher say, take the cat first. And I like to tell them, well, we got to take care of the cat first, right? The cat's a living thing. It needs to be taken care of. But anyway, so cat first, and then the performance task. All right, so let's see, performance task. All right, so the performance task is a little bit different than the CAT. It requires you to synthesize multiple sources of information, critically analyze, and develop an extended response to a real-world problem. So this is more of the written portion of the assessment. And so it may take you just as long to finish the PT as the CAT, because there's information for you to read and synthesize as you go. The CAST as well has two parts. There's a fixed domain and a performance task. But when you log in, you will see that all these parts are all together in one assessment, requiring only one login for the CAST assessment. So with all of these, it's important that you take your time and think about what the question is asking you to do. This is not a timed assessment, so take your time on each and every one of these, and we'll cover some strategies for assessments over the next few weeks. So the CAASPP assessment is untimed. Let's see if we can go to the next slide here. Yeah, so just a few bullet points here that I want to make sure that I cover before we move on into some assessment strategies. So it is untimed, which means you can take as much time as you need. Remember that pause rule, though. We just covered that. Remember, there are opportunities for you to pause throughout. So remember that, but you can continue to take as much time as you need. You can even request additional days to finish. They are to be taken independently, meaning your parents, your siblings, or anybody else in your household cannot help you with this assessment. They can help you get logged in. They can help you put in the numbers and get you set up, making sure you have some breakfast and a good night's sleep. But once you've logged in, they cannot help you with specific questions about answers in this assessment. Also, no phones. So you can't have your phone or any other device during testing. Scores will be released before the end of the school year, and they will be available in the system. And then you'll also be able to ask your teacher, your ST, how they can help best support you. And then last reminder there is the CAASPP scores, again, do not affect your school's course grades. So they're not going to affect your current grades. They do not determine if you pass or fail. or if you're promoted to the next grade. The results are used to determine if you're improving year over year and if groups of scholars are making positive progress throughout the entire school year. So we're looking for that achievement, and that's what these scores are going to help us determine. You cannot study for the CAASPP. You can practice. You can use those practice tests to help you get familiar with the testing interface, help you get familiar with those universal tools, and help you just get ready. You know, it's always good to go through the process prior to your assessment. The questions and topics presented are based on information you should already know, though. So it's not one of these assessments that you can easily study for. It's just, you know, it's the time and place, where are you at, and how are you doing? Who takes the CAASPP? All grades 3 through 8 will take the ELA and the math assessments. And then the 11th graders in grade 11 will also take the ELA and the math assessment. And then the science will be assessed in grade 5, in grade 8, and one time during high school. So we generally have them take the CAST assessment in grade 11 while they're taking the ELA, like in that same scheduled time. Maybe you want to schedule one extra day to finish that CAST assessment. But I know that some people are finished with their science requirements after 2 years. So in that case, we would recommend that you would take your science CAST assessment at the end of your 10th grade year while that information is still fresh in your brain. So that CAST assessment is kind of flexible in high school. You just have to take it one time during high school. Take it at the time that's best to share with us the knowledge that you know about the science that you've learned throughout high school. So I hope that makes sense. All grades 3 through 8 are assessing. Also, all of you in 11th grade will be assessing English and math, and then the science has specific grades for that. Okay, take it away. There you go.
Get myself unmuted here. Thank you so much. You did such a fantastic job, and that was so thorough. So the next thing we're going to discuss is just what we call success planning. And there's a quote that we wanted to share with you, and it's success doesn't just happen, it's actually planned for. So the quote means that we must prepare and plan in order to succeed. And I would add, you have to define what success means. And what we're after right now in terms of success is you feeling calm and at peace and confident and safe. So all of the things that we're doing right now is to give you that sense of calm and peace and safety moving forward into our assessment season. So moving along, we're going to talk about what success planning for the CAASPP assessments looks like. The first thing that we want to talk about is embedded versus non-embedded tools. So embedded means that they're part of the assessment. So they're actually wrapped in there, they're already there, and you can access them on your computer screen during the assessments. Non-embedded means that they're not part of the assessment. It could be a printed piece of paper, it might be breaks, so they actually consider a break a tool. So it's anything that's actually not wrapped into the assessment and part of it already. Universal tools are tools that are available for every single scholar at Compass and really anywhere at any school. And they're available to use in the test platform or in the assessment platform while you take your CAASPP assessment. We have a huge list of them for you, which we've already shared, and you can access that in the slide deck, just like Ms. Angelo was just talking about. And really, we want to highly recommend that you access those training videos that we shared with you so that you know how to use those universal tools. And so all of you learning coaches out there that are watching this, please share those videos with your scholar. And then we're going to talk about taking a practice test in the actual testing platform. What you'll want to do is watch these videos and then take a practice test, not even for the purpose of finishing the practice test, but for the purpose of giving your scholar a chance to actually use those tools repeatedly so that by the time that assessment season comes along, your scholar is golden and it feels safe and feels at peace with how to use all those different things that could derail them otherwise. So universal tools available to everyone. We've shared those videos. Something to note is that the calculator is only for grades 6th through 8th and 11th. It's going to be actually embedded in the assessment, so it's not something you need to have on the side like the old days. And some of these tools might only be available in the performance task and not the computer adaptive test. So performance task, PT, Ms. Angelo was referencing that earlier, and CAT, the CAT, computer adaptive test. Designated supports are additional supports that your teacher or ST might recommend for you. And then accommodations are available for scholars who have a 504 or IEP. And just saying, if you don't know what those are, then you don't have them. And that's absolutely fine. Just if you don't know about an IEP or a 504, it means that what's available to you are universal tools. And that's what you're going to want to be exploring when you go into the testing interface. So here's some basic rules. So you see three different types of rules listed here, and that you're probably rolling your eyes thinking, oh my gosh, lots of rules. Well, these are important for you to know about, because as long as you know about them, then you can be at peace when interacting with the testing platform. And they mostly have to do with how the test works, the timing, taking breaks, all of those types of things. So you can't skip any questions. If you don't know it, you're going to take your best educated guess and you're going to move on. So no skipping. It just isn't something the test interface will allow. What you can do, however, is you can mark it for review, and that will save it. So everything that you mark for review at the end, when you've gone all the way through the assessment, it will allow you to go back and look at the questions that you marked for review and see if that you have a better, if you're in a better headspace for being able to answer those questions. You must answer all the questions on a page before you can move on to the next question. This can be pretty tricky because sometimes you have to scroll to see all the parts to a question. So sometimes also there might be multiple questions on that page. So again, you might need to scroll down to make sure you've seen all the different questions on that page. And it won't let you move on. It can seem really frustrating. You can feel like you actually answered everything and not realize that you've just missed something on that page. So something to double check for. And again, practicing in those practice tests will help you recognize what that looks like, so you're not tripped up by it in the actual assessment. You can navigate to an available test page by clicking on the back or next button, or by selecting the page from the questions drop-down list that we also saw on that previous slide. You can pause your assessments at any time. So you need to take a break, you want to put it on pause, that's just fine. But there's a couple of important pieces to know about the pauses. One big one is if you pause for less than 20 minutes, you'll still be able to go back and review all of your previous answered questions. So this system gives you the opportunity to look at all your questions, see if you still feel comfortable before you click submit and you're done with the test. But if you pause it for longer than 20 minutes, you won't be able to review your previous questions, even if you marked them for review. So what that means is, I just want to make sure it's really clear. We just got through telling you, you cannot answer certain questions if you mark them for review, or actually, I apologize. You have to take your best guess on a question, but you can mark that best guess question for review. And then it basically gathers them all up for you to check on at the end of the assessment. But you lose that opportunity if you pause it for longer than 20 minutes. If you're idle for 20 minutes, meaning you're not clicking on anything, there's no activity going on, the system's actually going to auto pause your assessment and log you out. Your answers in progress will be saved, And when you log back in, you'll be presented with your first unanswered question. So again, you passed that 20-minute mark. It auto-logged you out. So if we were in a live class, I'd say, what does that mean for you in terms of those previously answered questions or any questions you've marked for review? Giving you a chance to think about that. I'm guessing that you all answered in your head. None of those marked for review questions are available for you to actually review, and none of the previous answered questions will be available for review. So basic, anything past 20 minutes, you're going to lose that piece of being able to go back and review things. Under 20 minutes, just fine. If you're taking an assessment with a performance task, a PT, you have no pause limits at all. So that's a whole different ball game. Any of the performance tasks, there aren't pause limits. That's kind of a fun thing to know because you're doing a lot of thinking, a lot of problem solving, a lot of in the ELA portion, you're doing a lot of writing and having to think through sequences and that type of thing. So it gives you a chance to take a mental break and think it through. So what are some planning tips? Well, again, if we were in a live class, I'd say, tell me what you're seeing right here. So I'm going to pretend I'm listening to you and I'm going to hear you say getting a good night's sleep, right? So night before the assessment, don't stay up late. Get a good night's sleep. Turn off all the lights. Make sure you're not on your devices late. Give yourself the best opportunity to feel refreshed in the morning. And then the next thing is making sure that you've scheduled when your test sessions are, as well as scheduling in time previous to those assessment sessions to practice. So that's a calendar. He's marking in on the calendar. You can use an electronic calendar like Outlook or Google, whatever works for you, but planning out your practice and then planning out the days of your assessment so that you know exactly what's coming and you plan school and any other activities around that. So just as an important little piece is assessments aren't as movable as some other things can be. Like sometimes you can do some of your schooling at night, that type of thing. You need to know ahead of time exactly when your assessment is and plan everything else around it because those do happen during school hours and the time is non-negotiable. Whenever your teacher or ST says they're happening, that's when you need to be there. And that's something you actually signed on the master agreement. So we really appreciate all the effort you're having to put in to make that happen because we know a lot of you have a lot of extra things going on. And this is a big deal for you to show up and make these times. And so we just want to, as a collective school, say thank you because that matters to our school. It's really important. And we're really grateful for that effort. The bottom left-hand corner shows a plate with utensils, etc. Have a good meal. Stay on a schedule. And then when it's time for you to take your assessment, make sure everything's quiet. Put yourself in the best possible position to just feel at peace when you're working your way through the assessment. So I apologize. I just lost my place a little bit. Okay, so training before assessment day. So you're going to want to become familiar with all the tools we've talked about, just like I was just mentioning. When you go in and you take a practice test, it gives you the chance to get familiar, right? So you walk into a new house, you've been living in the same house for 10 years, suddenly you're in a new house and the lights don't work. If you were in your old house, you would be so familiar with it that it would be pretty easy for you to navigate, even if you couldn't see your way around, because you've been in that house and walked through those hallways and up and down those stairs so many times that you might need to feel your way around a little bit, but you basically know the lay of the land. The same concept applies when it comes to taking these assessments. So we want you to get in there and experience the hallways. So go in, take a practice test, just take part of one, play with the tools, play with the interface, play with all of it so you feel safe and comfortable. We want you to log in and just practice even a little bit each week. Doesn't have to be a whole test. Let's see. Oh, and also just looking at the tools that you want to use, trying them out, seeing what's available to you. If you do have an IEP, you can actually set some of those tools when you're logging your scholar into the test, in the practice test. You can set some of those tools if you know which ones are written into the IEP. All of those things are things that you can actually practice prior to assessment day. The difference between practice and training tests are that practice tests are available for grades 3 to 8 and 11th for ELA and math, and each practice test has approximately 30 items. There are also performance tests available for both of those, and all of the universal tools, designated supports, and accommodations are available to use and practice with. Training tests, however, are a little bit different. They allow you to become familiar with logging in and also understanding all of the navigation tools. Training tests are by grade bands, so 3 to 5th, 6 to 8th, and high school. Each training test has approximately 14 or 15 items, so they're a little bit shorter, and they just give you a taste of everything. Some are ELA and some are math. There are no PT training tests, and all the universal tools, designated supports, and accommodations are available. Additionally, there are no scores available for either of those tests. So that's really important and can be kind of frustrating. But again, the goal isn't how you perform on the test. The goal is getting used to the test. So we thought about doing a live demonstration, but we're actually going to save that for our live session on Friday. We want to do a live interactive demonstration with you on Friday. So we look forward to you coming and hope to see you there. So we're going to move on and we're going to talk about some good, healthy assessment tips. And you notice I changed the word testing to assessment. And part of that is because with the adaptive CAASPP, it's assessing areas that we can support you as most customized to what you need as possible. In the old days, it was just testing what you did or didn't know. Nowadays, it's assessing areas that we could support you in a much better way and make your teaching, the experience that you have with your teacher, much more customized to what you need. So I love that shift. And so if you hear me correcting testing to assessment, that's why. So our first tip, and again, if I had you here, I'd say stop and just say it out loud. Read all the directions carefully. Use that stripe through tool that Ms. Angelo was talking about earlier and eliminate unnecessary information so you can find what's really important in the question. Do whatever you need. Write it out so you can circle keywords. Whatever you need, read your directions carefully. Tip 2, read the question carefully. Oh, that sounds familiar. Why? Because it's really important, you guys. Understand what's being asked and what you need to do. You might need to answer each question with a different tool. So you want to know if it's multiple choice before you start out. If it's multiple choice, you're going to read all those possible answers before you actually answer your question. It could be a drag and drop. Again, read all of it and all your options. And a good way to do a matching or drag and drop is find the one that you know. If it all looks unfamiliar, find the one that you're most familiar with. Answer that one first and start using a process of elimination. Graphing or writing a response, you might have to solve something and you might have to fill in a table. So all of those things might show up when you're taking this assessment. Make sure you read all of it and see how that question is formatted. Look for keywords. So we just talked about that a minute ago. You might want to write it out. You might just write down the keywords you find in the question. Do whatever it takes so that you are allowing your brain to hone in on keywords that are going to give you clues to what the answer may be. Read all the answer choices. We just talked about that. Eliminate any wrong answers. So you might not be sure about the right answer, but a lot of the times you can say, oh, that is definitely not it. So eliminate any that you possibly can, narrow what you're trying to answer from. Use the mark for review tool. So we talked about that earlier. As long as you haven't paused longer than 20 minutes, you'll be able to go back and look at any of those questions that you answered but wanted to review. Double check and review your answers. So we can't emphasize that enough. At the end of the assessment, take the time to go back and just look at those things that you marked for review. Don't be afraid of that. It's a phenomenal tool. Double check your answers at the end of the assessment before you submit. Take that little bit of time. It'll be worth your while. Stay positive and trust yourself. So this wraps in back to that educated guess too, because a lot of times you know the answer, but you second guess yourself. So have confidence in the knowledge that you've built this far, because you have learned a lot. Then some just calming yourself down techniques. Breathing and visualization techniques are really important. So you're visualizing yourself answering correctly and finishing the assessment. If you feel anxious, don't be afraid to take a 5-minute break and just do some deep breathing. The snow globe effect is the idea that you're letting everything settle. So when you get anxious, it's like shaking the snow globe and all of a sudden you can't see anything clearly. But if you give yourself a pause and just a little bit of a break to let everything settle, all of a sudden, all these things that you couldn't see before suddenly come into view. So take that concept and apply it to answering these questions and completing the assessment. If your brain starts to feel like a shaken up snow globe, give yourself a pause, give yourself some grace, take a minute and let it settle. Box breathing is another format of this. So you've got corners of the box. So whatever those corners are that are causing you to feel anxious, you're going to go through and breathe those corners out until you feel calmed down. So this corner. And then this corner, you're going to hold that breath and count to 4 and then let it out. One more time in this corner. Count to 4 and let it out, or in and out, whatever makes you feel better. And then one more time at the bottom corner. Again, it's just ways to focus your breathing so that you're helping your body, helping that anxious possible chemical response that you've had that goes on in your brain when you get worried or uptight or anxious or fearful, helping all of that to calm down and those chemicals to dissipate in your body so you can think straight. And finally, again, take a break. Just remember those pause rules. 20 minutes or less, take that break. If you need to take a break and continue a test and schedule something with the teacher, that's not ideal, but it's doable. And it's totally worth it if that's what's going to help you feel safe and calm during the assessment. Okay, so we keep talking about a resource document. It'll be linked below our video, and we'll also share it on Friday. It's going to have this slide deck. It's going to have all the documents we've shared and any other things that we felt might be relevant to the topics that we have been discussing. Whoops. And that is the resource document that you'll see and that we'll be sharing. we're excited to be able to share that with you. And as you can see, everything is linked. And as we move forward in the weeks, we'll have everything linked here, including the slides and the recording links. Whoops, so sorry. I have that slide linked to, so if you click on this right here, CAASPP resources, it actually has a link embedded in it. So when you access those slides, it'll take you directly to that resource doc, which is what I keep doing accidentally. So finally, we can't stress this enough. This is a link to the practice and training test in the CAASPP website. Please, 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 10 minutes a day, just set a goal. You remember that little icon with the calendar and the pencil? Set some time in every day to do a little bit of a practice test or do a training test. You will feel so much better. We're also going to be giving you an opportunity later in these sessions to take a practice test with us. So we look forward to that. But before that happens, please be getting in there. Please be taking those practice tests, even if it's just little pieces, and helping yourself feel more confident moving forward into assessment season. Finally, this is our contact information. We'll be sharing this on Friday as well. Any questions you have, any anxieties you have, or anything that you feel like we might have missed, feel free to email us. We will get back with you as quickly as we can. And we delight in talking to our families. It's our favorite part of the job. So don't feel like you're bothering us. It's actually the best part of what we do. So we look forward to seeing you on Friday, and we hope you have a wonderfully healthy and happy and productive week.
That was so helpful. Thank you. I'm going to practice that box breathing technique, and I hope to see you all on Friday.
Bye.
Bye.